Hello everyone and welcome to Extreme Graphics Tech, where I try to explain to you why the games work the way they do, or at least that's what I think I do. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, today I'm going to make a brief video. This is not going to be an in-depth video as other video I've done on the channel about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. And the reason for making it brief is because I honestly don't have that much experience with the series as to try to dissect the game that much. However, I want to say that whatever you think of the Call of Duty series, we have to agree is one of the most important first-person shooters that exist nowadays. It's so much that there is this whole drama between Microsoft and PlayStation because, well, you know, Microsoft just bought or is trying to buy Activision. PlayStation is not very happy because obviously they are going to lose the Call of Duty saga, and this has brought a lot of attention on the media and on the gamer side. So yeah, that means Call of Duty is quite important. However, besides that, no matter what you think, as I said about the saga, two things are true. They provide always a technological push for their series. They could have just stalled and always give you the same graphics and so on. However, they are always pushing, optimizing and making the game run the best and look the best they can. So much that this series has always prioritized going at least at 60 FPS. Yes, on the old gen PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, there was a point where this was basically not really true because the game was, you know, going around 40 and 50 FPS. However, they try to push for that frame rate, keeping a lot of graphic fidelity. So I think that's very good for the series. Another point that for me is very important is that I don't enjoy the multiplayer part of the game. However, the single player area of the game or part of the game for me is like one of those Michael Bay movies. You know, sometimes you just want to disconnect and enjoy the spectacle, the ride, and not having to worry too much. And for me, that is what is so good about the single player campaigns in Call of Duty, because they are that spectacles, and I don't think anybody does better than them in that sense. Many have tried, and at least on this type of game, because, you know, there is Doom Eternal, which is an amazing game, but I think it's targeting a different audience and a different play style, while Call of Duty is, you know, all about the bombastics and the explosions and the silly stories and all of that, which makes for me sometimes a very nice thing to just disconnect my brain and have fun. You know, why not do it while the game is, you know, producing so much so beautiful graphics. However, there are two things this year that I dislike, or I would say I don't like as much as previous year from the technical perspective. The first one is that they have ditched entirely ray tracing for the series. They used to have ray tracing for Shadows, but this year there is no ray tracing option. I don't know if they're going to add it later, which I don't think so, but there is no ray tracing option. And for me, that is just a loss, because you know how much I like my ray tracing in my game. So yeah, I'm missing that, even though the Shadows is probably not the most changing option that you can have for ray tracing. However, when I was in the Amsterdam level, I was thinking like, oh my god, what if they had added ray trace reflection here? This area already looks very realistic, and they could have pushed that a little bit more. The other part I don't like technically, but this is not just about this game, but almost any game, and I don't understand why this keeps happening, at least on PC. I understand consoles because, well, you know, you have to work with the limitations of the systems and try to make trade-off. However, in this case, I do not understand why the LOD is so close to the player. You can see some areas where you are pointing to something and you don't see anything, and as soon as you use the zoom scope, you can see objects that were not there appearing. But it's not just that. When you're walking, you can see trees getting more foliage, you can see shadows appearing and stuff like that, and for me that's always something that takes me out of the experience more than anything. Having things appear out of nowhere in front of the camera doesn't make sense to me, and I understand that, as I said, on console you need to make some sacrifices, but on PC I should have the option to just say render up to infinity. That's just my problem. That should be something that the user deals with. And yes, I know there are a lot of dumb people out there that are going to set that super high, and then the game is going to run really bad, and then I'm going to blame the game. I understand that, but also at the same time, you know, I should be able to just set the options the way I want. I don't want things appearing in front of me. So I think that's a regression in terms of ray tracing, and something that still needs to be addressed, which is the LOD, if we want games to be more realistic. But anyway, having said that, let's just start the test by doing a CPU test as I normally do. And well, as you can see here, well, the game just run honestly very good, all things considered, in the i7-6700K. Remember, this is an old CPU I use in order to understand how CPU bound the game can be, and in this case we can get to really high frame rate when the game is on low. And what happens is that some options in the game, when you change preset to like ultimate or ultra, that are going to affect the CPU, which I am not sure which ones they are, because it's huge. The options that the game offers are really a lot. That's a good thing, because you can just set the game exactly the way you want. However, for this quick comparison test, I couldn't find exactly which were those options. However, keep in mind that there are options out there that are going to affect the CPU. So if you find yourself in any situation where the CPU seems to be the bottleneck, try to find or lower your preset, even though you may think that's only affecting your GPU. It's not. There are some options that are going to be affecting your CPU behavior, and that can give you that extra push that you want to at least get a stable 60 FPS, considering this is an FPS game. You know, the more frames the better, especially if you're playing the multiplayer part of the game. Also, I have to say that sometimes it's quite hard for me to try to see or check which CPUs to use to test if the game is running or not running correctly. So I normally try to mix out depending on the game. For example, you know, in this case, I'm going to use some lower tier GPUs, because I think most people will play with those competitively. And if you know that if you have anything better, then you're going to get better results, especially because many people are going to just play on low or something like that, because all they want is those frames to be as high as possible. But because we are playing only the campaign in this case, then the campaign is more heavy normally than the multiplayer, so you know that if it's running this well on the multiplayer, that is going, and the campaign, sorry, is going to run well on the multiplayer side of the game. So the first card I wanted to test is the Intel Arc 750, because I think many people are going to this card because of the price and because it's a novelty, and many people want to know if this game is going to run well on the Arc 750. And yes, the game is going to run very well, at least from what I've seen, and this is a very sponsor title. Even Intel gives you the title when you buy the graphic card, and so Intel has made sure that the games run well on Intel 750. So in this case, I'm playing the game with at 1440p with XeSS on ultra quality in balance mode, and the game is running without any issues whatsoever. I could have maybe used EXS in quality mode and be able to up the quality a little bit instead of balance, going a little bit higher. However, you can always manually change the textures to high, because this card has 8 GB of RAM, and that's all you need to have the higher textures. If you have a 6 GB card, then that could be a problem depending on the configuration you use, because the game at the maximum texture will use all those 6 GB of RAM. But as you can see, the Intel Arc 750 is running flawlessly here, no problems whatsoever, and we can enjoy a very good experience. I haven't seen any particular glitches or anything weird with the card, so I will say at least this is a win for the Arc 750 and Intel in this case. And I guess that's what happened when you optimize your driver for specific games to run the way they're supposed to. The next GPU I tested is the RTX 2060, and the reason for that is because, and once again, I think this is a very popular low to mid tier card that will, many people will use to play games like this. And in this case, I decided once again to play the game on 1440p with DLSS quality at ultra quality. Okay, so yes, it's a little bit better than the Intel Arc 750. However, as I was using EXS Ultra quality on that one, which uses a higher resolution than DLSS quality. So probably we could have gone higher with the Arc 750 if I went with EXS quality instead of Ultra quality. In any case, the RTX 2060 is behaving quite well here, and if you play at 1080p, obviously you are going to be able to play at a much better and higher frame rate, even if you lower the quality. But this gives you an idea of how the game is going to behave on this GPU. The final card I decided to test in this case was the AMD RX 580 8GB version, and in this case I'm using native 1080p. And even though the game supports FSR, it supports FSR 1.0, and from my point of view, FSR 1.0 should not be used in anything under 1440p. I tried to see if I could get a better experience using FSR in ultra quality mode, but still the game looked weird when you activate FSR even at the best quality at 1080p. So I decided to keep the game at low with native 1080p. However, I did modify the texture to high, since this is an 8GB card, and it didn't affect my performance. It's too bad that they decided to go with FSR 1.0. I'm not quite sure, because FSR 2.0 has been out for quite a while. I hope they patch at the latest version to the game. However, with FSR 1.0, yes, there are a lot of cards that are maybe going to benefit, but the point to me is that many of those cards will probably be playing at 1080p, and believe me, the game looks wrong using FSR at 1080p. So I'm not sure. I know you cannot use XeSS with these low-end cards, because then it's going to be slower. It's going to be more slow than going native, so that there is not that option, unfortunately. So I hope they add FSR 2.0. In any case, the RX 580 at 1080p low still had a very good experience. You are going to be able to play over 60 FPS, no problems whatsoever. I still keeping a very good graphical fidelity. Having said this, I'm going to end the video here, but first I'm going to remind you to please subscribe, press that like button and share it with your friends. And I'm open to any criticism, and if you want to ask me anything or recommend me anything or advise me about anything, please do, because the idea is to improve the channel as much as possible. Thank you very much, and see you on the next video.